Yes, hello, shalom, salam alaikum, yeah, wagwan, and hello. So, now, I've already made a video, and I didn't want to, about the alleged women's super fight, the biggest her story fight. I mean, it's so cringe. Her story instead of history. Well, what a super play on words. It's pathetic, man. It's like, what's it called, like, some kind of woke thing. It's just IFL done her story. They made me sick. Coogan and his ugly boat race, his panda eyes, his bent legs, yeah, his chocolate, a moose style body with a whack tattoos, drilling holes in walls and watching, middle class white girls take dumps and all that stuff. It makes me sick. Anyway, I want, he's going to get squeezed soon, I hope, anyway, No one deserves it more. Someone with no loyalty, who only thinks about himself and he thinks he's great, deserves that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm not interested one bit in Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. I really have no interest, yeah? The only fight that's of interest on the bill. What is Halil Ko, who actually, who was a big prospect, but I thought he was going to do really well when I watched him as an amateur, but he's had one draw so far. So I don't know, maybe he slipped. And there's a Liam Smith. I mean, I'm not that interested. I mean, I'm so sick of the Smith brothers anyway. And although I do, Callum is still of interest to me. But I'm still the Smith brothers, man. They've had too many title shots, and he's fighting Jesse Vlogs. I'm not that super interested in that. I probably won't watch that. I got DAZN. Yeah, which probably hasn't got much life left. Yeah, judging by the way that the what's his face, Eddie Hearn is acting, with his desperately, imagine how desperate he must be. He traps Jake Paul in the corridor. Like I said, I've done a video on this with his side piece, the fat stinking porcine Steve Bunce. And desperately, basically begs him or tries to convince him, but it's a pathetic job. Oh, you don't need Tommy Fury. What you need is Sonny Bill Williams, who no one's ever heard of around the world. Obviously, rugby guys have, and in New Zealand they do, but he's not even a name in the UK, let alone the United States, Oh, he's a legend, the rugby people go. No, he's not, man. I mean, in rugby, I don't know. I don't care about rugby, But in boxing, he's not a name, and he's just not a global name. Rugby's not a global sport. There's only like a few nations that play it that are any good. It's a real, it's like England, Ireland, France, and then South Africa and New Zealand and Australia. No one outside of them countries care. Yeah, it's a niche sport, and he's trying to convince Jake Paul to fight Sonny Bill Williams, who outweighs him by 50 pounds. That just shows, if there's no better indication, the zone is in big trouble now. Big trouble. When it can happen to a more smarmy guy. So what I'm saying is, I've got it anyway, just because I love boxing. It's $7.99, and I'm like, well, whatever, man. We've got a couple of good fights on a month. It's easy, worth it to me. But yeah, let me tell you, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano is not one of them. I genuinely will not watch it. I will not watch it. I can watch it on delay. This is a great thing about streaming. You can watch it when you want. You can have no spoilers. Yeah, that model, it works for me. But come on, man. Why would I watch it? It's gonna be a distance fight. It's gonna be boring. Yeah, the commentator's gonna tell us about how great it is. Yeah. Yeah, and there's this other fight, and this weekend, and honestly, I genuinely mean this. I am more likely to watch this fight, even though it's with a couple of guys that are not close to world class, and no world I'd be. Hang on, I think my dog needs to be let out. Yeah, and with what I'm talking about, yeah, is that Hasim Rahman Jr. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, Rahman. Yeah, Hasim Rahman Jr., the son of Hasim Rahman, who was, he was a world heavyweight champion of sorts. He knocked out Lennox Lewis, but he also got ironed out a few times himself. He's not a legend by any means. And I think, what's it called? McKenzie Morrison. Yeah, James McKenzie Morrison, the son of Tommy the Duke Morrison. He's also got a brother called Troy Lipe Morrison. I thought it was better, but he got banged out in his last fight in the first round. So you got James McKenzie Morrison, the son of Tommy. So it's like I mean, Hasim and Tommy are not necessarily legends in boxing per se, but they're good names. Tommy's got the bigger name because, his life was just crazy, and obviously he was in Rocky V. But Rahman was a big name at the time as a heavyweight, that's for sure. Now, so they're fighting, at heavyweight. They're both heavyweights now. And we'll look at some footage in a minute, but let's just look at some stats here. So you've got McKenzie Morrison, who I thought was the least good of the Morrison brothers, right? And he's got 19 wins, 17 KOs, and 2 draws. So, we look at his record, of course. You've got to look at who they're fighting. I mean, if you're banging out tomato cans, you can have hundreds of KOs. Might even be able to get Tommy Fury a few KOs. So, I'm just looking, right? Just looking at any names that I recognise. I very much doubt there will be. So, there's a majority draw with a guy called Aaron Chavez, who's 7-1, but now is like 8-10. Just a bum. He beat him again later when they fought a rematch. Who else? I can't see any. This guy, Sam Shoemaker, was 5-0. Now, Sam Shoemaker is like this kind of hillbilly guy who does bare knuckle fights. I don't know. He had some kind of championship. He's just not the greatest guy in the world. Like he's fun to watch. He's good. Banged out a few guys, but he got banged out himself in his last fight in 19 seconds. This is bare knuckle. I mean, like that's Morrison's biggest man, Sam Shoemaker. An ex-pro who had no knockouts, 6 fights. He got knocked out once. Obviously by Morrison, but his previous fights had all gone a distance now. The heavyweights, that's pretty poor. And he went over to be a bare knuckle fight, but basically being banged out. So that's his biggest name. There's a guy called Galen Brown who's a well-known bum, kind of for years. He knocked him out in one. That was meaningless. So that's it. So he had a draw, as I said, against this guy Aaron Chavez, and also this guy called Chris Harris, who just has got then had a 2-0 record. Now has 2 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws. And he's a cruiser anyway. So we're talking about rubbish. He's basically feasted on rubbish. It's very difficult to kind of make a decision about who's going to win a fight. When there are any good wins or any real indicators of how good you are. Knocking out bum after bum after bum, it doesn't really indicate much. I mean, obviously we'll look at some footage. Let's look at Rahman Jr. So Rahman Jr. was an amateur, unlike the old Kenzie, right? Now he let's look at his amateur record. So they've got on BoxRec 21 fights listed, but these are often incomplete, right? Just see if I recognise any names as I go down. Trevor Bryan, he lost some points at the Masonic Temple of Cincinnati. Interesting. We talk about secret societies. That's the only name I recognise. He fought as a heavyweight in the pros. He's like hovered in. There's some weird weights here. One of them said he weighed 269 for a fight. Another one said he's boxed as low as 211. I mean, we'll see if he looks fat. I mean, that's weird. He hasn't beaten anyone of any note. He's got no losses or draws, but that's 12 wins with only 6 KOs. If you fight at a low level, like complete bums, and you've only stopped half the guys you've fought, I mean, that's not good. He's got a majority draw against someone called Myro Rodriguez Juarez, who's a journeyman with, like as many wins as losses. So you can't really tell much of either of them, yeah? I mean, when you've got these kind of bouts, you're like, well, they all fought bums. It's, which one's the worst? You usually go for the one that's shown any beatness of chin. You usually expect to get knocked out. Especially if the other guy can fight a bit. I mean, the main advantage old Morrison has is he's a bit heavier, or so you'd think. He's been more steady at the weight. Recently, he's weighed around the 240 limit, 230 limit. I don't know, man. 220 he's gone as low. He's jumped around with weights a bit. And Rahman, as I said, has gone from 269 and dropped 215 pounds in his last fight. So, just what can you tell from that? Nothing really. Nothing really. Before I look at some footage, yeah, it's impossible to lean towards either of these guys. Impossible to know who could win this fight. You would say, oh, well, Morrison's can punch a bit harder. Well, okay, that's fine, but has he inherited his dad's chin? Because his other brother did, Lipe, when he got chinned in around. Anyway, let's look at some footage now. Right, so that's Morrison on the right against some fat guy. I don't know who this guy is. Yeah. So he looks a bit like Tommy. He moves a bit like Tommy. Like a clone of Tommy. He reminds you of Campbell and Hatton. Oh, he landed a shot against the bum. He's throwing a bit wildish shots, Blap. See if you can get this idiot out of here. Boom. Oh, it's an okay left hook. He looks like him, but he looks like an actor playing Tommy Morrison, Oh, this is the Schumacher hillbilly guy. Let's see if he's got anything to offer. I don't know if anything landed there. A bit wild. Who knows, man. People could say, oh, it's a dive. I don't care, man. This level, he's just trying to see if there's anything of any value in Morrison's arsenal. I quite like the hillbilly's beard. Yeah, he's facially and, he's sort of, like I said, he looks like an actor playing Tommy Morrison in a movie about Tommy Morrison. Same thing as Bell and Hatton. He looks like he's trying to imitate his dad, Yeah, the hillbilly's throwing some haymakers. Oh, some left hooks there. Yeah, that's about over, man. As I said, you can't tell much from that. He's got a little bit of power. As I said, he's not that good. Imitating his dad. Let's look at Rahman Jr., see if he's any better. Let's see what Rahman Jr. can do. Yeah, so he's the one in the white shorts, Rahman Jr. He's fighting a fat guy. Again, I don't know who this idiot is, but, he's a southpaw. Wow. Yeah, my dog's watching as well. That's why he's snoring, because it's so whack, it sent him to sleep. Bit of Mayweather-type moves there from Rahman Jr. on the ropes. I quite like the fat guy. He's having a go. Yeah. Come on, man. It's not really worth. I can't be bothered to watch any more of that. I mean, that's just... I just found a little clip. There's not a lot there on Rahman Jr. I mean, he looks pretty poor. What can you say? What can you say? I don't expect much from him. The real problem is trying to decide who's going to win this bum show. And like I said, from the little footage we had, Morrison seems slightly more to want it and has a little bit of a punch. Rahman doesn't seem to punch. He's lazy, and I think like his buck pride is going to make him want to win. He doesn't want to lose against the hillbilly Morrison, and I think maybe he'll perform a bit better, but it's impossible to tell at this stage. To be honest, I can't be bothered to think too much about it. I'm going to go for Morrison. I think his will to win, which I'm imagining maybe, but maybe he's going to want it more, and he's got a bit more power than Rahman. And you know what? I can't believe I wasted all this time on this fight. But to be honest, I actually would rather watch it than Taylor Serrano. That's how uninterested I am. That's the main point of this video, to show how uninterested I am about the Katie Taylor Amanda Serrano fight, which I'm not going to watch. Anyway, I don't think I'll watch the Morrison Rahman either, at least not live, but maybe I'll watch some highlights or something on YouTube. Anyway, good night.